So I'm going to read another one of my huge pharmawaska experiences, and this one was also back in about 4 years and 9 months ago. It says when I wrote it. And these, as I mentioned before, these were consecutive pharmawaska trips that I was taking when I was experiencing my psychosis slash mania. So, I think I was trying to find out certain things about myself or to just try to get over this spiritual crisis that I was going through. I don't really know what to call it, but I'm basically sharing all of these because I want to show you how it got to the point where I basically can't really do it anymore. It's becoming too much of a extremely heavy experience for me to go through in terms of the heavier doses. I'm still definitely going to trip. I've just been still on my break and dealing with some emotions, but I think I've made some progress. I've been listening to a lot of Eckhart Tolle and his thoughts around suffering and living in the now. So I have a lot to basically digest right now, and I think that once this stuff blows over, I'll definitely be able to explore again. But I don't know if I'll be able to explore the levels that I used to explore, just because I have to be a bit mindful of my own ability to handle, I guess, very difficult experiences. And it got to the point where it was almost too much to keep going through. It was too exhausting for me. And you guys will get why it's getting exhausting for me now. But basically, I'll get right into the trip. So it says, "Hey guys, I'm going to have another pharmawaska trip today. I was thinking 3.8 grams of Syrian Rue and 200 milligrams of DMT. Everything is prepared and I just got to take the nasty Rue. Yuck. I'll report back with the trip." And then I basically said, "Holy bejesus." And then I wrote, "I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was the most intense trip I've ever had in my life. This was even more intense than a trip report I wrote a few years ago called Pharmawaska, labeled Too Much DMT slash Rue, which I consider to be the hardest experience of my life." And that trip is in one of my past videos. I can give a link if you want to read it. I think I mixed 3 different trip reports into that video, but that one is also... I also talk about it in a video, so you guys can find that if you want. So I wrote, "My scale is only 1 decimal, so I might have overshot the dose higher than 200 milligrams. My scale is messed. My brother lost my 2 decimal scale, so he gave me this piece of crap. Now I don't even know where to begin. Off the bat, this trip was terrifying. Okay, so I dosed, then I went up to my room to go into silent darkness. Then it came on strong and quick. My whole field of vision was superimposed with hyperspace machinery and patterning. I would see everything in normal reality, but hyperspace was like a watermark overlay. I felt terrible pressure throughout my whole body, and immediately I puke in my mouth, so I run to the bathroom quick to spit it out. Then I start puking for a bit. After this, it starts to come on even stronger. I lay down in my bed, and it ramps up to extreme intensity quick. What was happening in my mind seemed to be some sort of singularity. In this moment, I felt like I had unlocked all the keys to solving the pain and suffering in everyone's life. There was a massive feel of alien consciousness communicating with me. These beings are so advanced. They are beyond the material and have evolved simply to push creativity to infinite potentials. Taking in this power of beauty of design is so intense, it's like you are staring into the sun. I felt as if thoughts were flooding into my mind faster than the speed of light. It was sandwiching ideas and events in history that related to each other. And I've talked about this before when I say that it does a lot of association stuff. This is to that is that is to this. And that's what I believe sort of contributes to the creativity effect that psychedelics give. And so it was relating self-immolation protests with football games. The theme was struggling to find peace of mind in life when you are a nobody. It was about wanting to win the game or war or whatever it takes to achieve the title. Knowing in your heart that your faith is so strong that you will step into oblivion for that touchdown that wins the game. In order to be someone, you literally have to give it all away, everything, the body, material attachment, everything. It reminded me of a friend who broke through on DMT and he had a difficult experience and then started throwing all of his belongings on the floor saying, "I don't need this." I found that beautifully symbolic on how DMT causes you to abandon all material possessions. This trip was showing me how ego pushes us to achieve, how jealousy and pride on wanting to be the champion is what pushes us to higher levels, wanting to be the greatest, going down in history as king, as a somebody. It's about who can take the most struggle, pain, and torture. In this state of mind, it was like the football game starting. It's a struggle and it's painful. It's like being in school. Then it was showing me the pain-free side, which is complete lack or care or interest. No jealousy or pride, not caring about being the greatest, no need to try. Just no effort, nothingness. With this approach, it was showing me that if you want to be something, you must go through suffering. You must find, you must look. If you want to be nothing, choose pain-free life, and don't look for anything, don't suffer. I was experiencing everyone's ego where someone sees potential in a person but they just don't care, and they don't want to suffer for it. Lack of power of will. It showed me that this angers people because it reflects their own insecurities of not wanting something bad enough that they would die for it, which is their lack of willpower. This is why that Buddhist monk who used self-immolation as a protest to gain awareness was so powerful to me. And as you guys can see, that sort of imagery was playing in my mind often throughout these experiences. Building yourself up to stare death in the face and walk through the flames without fear and complete faith in your principles. Sacrifice the self for the good of the many. This was complete and utter ego death and annihilation. This trip was my self-immolation training program of some sort. I experienced myself burning alive, being crushed into oblivion by enormous pressure, and being struck by lightning, and suffocating all at once. I could feel my fingers burning with intense electroshock pain. What I was seeing was impossible. It was completely alternate reality with incredible depths and complexity, inhabited by aliens which are too many to count. This was all in the opened eye. My room was gone. My room wasn't even there anymore. My bedsheets felt like they disappeared. I pierced the veil and I was between this reality and the afterlife, more so in the afterlife. I have never been this immersed in psychedelic hallucinations in my life. I saw myself in some sort of energetic pattern Egyptian tomb and saw my body's flesh rip away, similar to when villains in Dragon Ball Z get Kamehameha'd and disintegrate into nothing. I was trying to find information in my head that could void the pain and into nothing. I felt the pain ease when I thought about school, education, learning, making something of yourself, being in class, not letting yourself be nothing. Class almost seemed like church in my mind, salvation. It seemed like the darkness finally caught up with me and I felt compelled to submit and say, "Okay, fine, I'll be a good little Christian who goes to school now, don't obliterate me." It was trying to get me to find a state of mind that is completely void of all thoughts and fear. There was a scale I was picturing with hands as each end of something that looked like a Libra scale of some sort. Each time my focus would stray, I would feel the pain and burn, and the more I gravitated towards the void state of nothing, the pain would ease. The scale hands were moving to the process of my focus straying. Every time it strayed and I felt the burns, the scale would tilt and say, "Oh, you're almost there, that's it, that's it." Once I found my focus and held it, there was no more pain. The pressure was all there, but I had consumed it, or rather it consumed me. And on the other side, it was as I suspected and seen before, paradise. It was like a birthday party or a celebration. You made it. I felt as if my body was now something that could be ripped and shredded for fun, ripping off limbs and parts of my body like it would be nothing. It was like none of it was even real and I was in some sort of video game like Gary's Mod. At this moment, I understood the whole universe. I was seeing the universe as some sort of funnel that has a marble dropped into it, and as it rolls, it speeds up until it reaches some sort of singularity, where I pictured the extreme faith to give up the body for your cause is at the end, and then once the door is stepped through, it's just infinity. It goes on forever. You win and the game resets. I was picturing this event as a football player on a game that is of very high stakes, and the event for when the team scores the win. This is where the maximum amount of effort is put forth. At this moment, you see who is willing to burn themselves alive for the win. And once you do that, touchdown. The whole world cheers and you can relax. Struggle's over. You were somebody. Your desire has been fulfilled, and now you cannot give any care. This trip was bringing my attention to the whole zero is equivalent to infinity theory. It was almost like all the suffering was related to that concept and based on a flawed or obsolete view of reality. And that the team that wants to win bad enough is the one that will give themselves a way to prove it. I was seeing the entropy of all this conflict near its most chaotic state. And once this happened, the singularity begins. We can all meet the alien, and the alien is us from the future, and reality will be like a 3D modeling program where you can bend and shape at will. I was so rattled by this trip, I'm actually a bit shook to go back in straight away. I'll wait a week or so. I feel that using Pharmawaska as a tool to overcome mental and physical pain as well as fear of death could be very promising. I know I have experienced death before, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't afraid of the real thing. My hope is to be able to bleed this fear out of myself by force. Hopefully there isn't terrible mental side effects that come from that. I definitely feel very morbid, but I'm happy, strange. And I feel less dependent on weed to fix my mental distress I experience when I'm not stoned. I realize that none of this probably makes any sense, but who cares? I felt it was important to write down what exactly happened in my mind and thoughts. Probably a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, like, as you guys can sort of see, my mind was definitely on some sort of trying to overcome some sort of pain I think I was feeling at the time. And I think I was going a little bit overboard and going a little extreme. I don't really see how I could be that extreme now. I don't really have the stones to do it anymore. I think it's because I was in a bit more of a volatile state back then, and I was just willing to go through whatever and didn't really think about it too clearly, I think. But now looking back at it, you know, I'm glad that I had those experiences and I wrote them down and you know, my perception of what happened. And I think that just reading through them, I can kind of gain bits of insight on where my mind was at and what kind of mentality that I had so that I can maybe grow from it. So I hope you guys you know, thought that was entertaining at least. It was a good story time, I think. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.